Hi everyone, and welcome to this presentation about the support and resources available from Skills for Care for individual employers, personal assistants, and also the organisations that support individual employers and personal assistants. So during this presentation, when we refer to individual employers, we're meaning people who employ PAs using direct payment from their local authority, a personal health budget from the NHS, or their own money. So who we are, my name is Laura Anthony and I'm a locality manager from the London and South East team at Skills for Care.
And I'm Pia Rathje Burton. I'm the locality manager for Kent and Medway, so I will be your contact for Kent if you are in Kent and Medway.
So we thought we'd start off by giving you a bit of information about Skills for Care for those of you who aren't already aware of us. So we're a charity with over 18 years experience of adult social care workforce development, and we're one of the delivery partners for the Department of Health and Social Care. And our main role is very much to provide practical support to employers, including individual employers, to help them recruit, develop, and also lead and manage their staff. And our overall objective is to support the creation of a well-led, skilled and valued adult social care workforce. So a key role of Skills for Care is to gather information about the adult social care workforce. The data we collect is used by the government and a range of other bodies to inform decisions about funding and about policy. So in March, we released a report on PAs and the individuals who employ them. So this report includes key figures about the size and the profile of the PA workforce. There's information in there about turnover rates, pay rates, and other workforce information, such as how many jobs PAs hold. And you can see some of the key findings on the slide. So we know that there are around 70,000 direct payment recipients employing their own staff, and that the vacancy rate for PAs is 8.3%. which is similar to the vacancy rate for other care workers. But if you go to the link at the top of the slide, you'll be able to access the full report, and hopefully this will be of interest to anybody involved in PA recruitment or workforce planning. So if you're looking for resources or support from Skills for Care, the best place to start would be our information hub for individual employers and PAs. And the link to this is at the bottom of the slide. It's very much a one-stop shop for information about a range of topics, including COVID, PA recruitment, training and funding, and also areas like pensions and the employment status of PAs. And the hub brings together information from many different organisations, not just Skills for Care. So the hub's split into different sections. There's one for individual employers, one for PAs, and one for organisations that support employers and PAs. And we'll be talking later about some of the guidance that's available, but just to give you a few examples, there's a guide on PAs continuing to support people during hospital admission, which shares learning and top tips about what works well. And the aim of this is to support individual employers, local authorities, and clinical commissioning groups just to work together to put the right processes in place to make it happen. There's also a guide on supporting your PA at work during COVID, which may be helpful even as we start to emerge from the pandemic. And there's also some guides about personal health budgets and the delegation of health tasks where the holder employs a PA. And there's a lot more in addition to these, so please do go on and have a look. One of our most popular resources is our Employing PAs Toolkit, and this will be particularly helpful to anybody who's employing a PA for the first time. The aim of the toolkit is to help people think about their responsibilities as an employer, and it includes guidance, templates and resources about recruiting, training and managing PAs. So the first section guides you through the process of recruiting a PA, including advertising, the application form and interviewing. It includes a sample job description and person specification. There's some tips in there about where to advertise and how to carry out a successful interview. And there's also guidance about the checks that need to be carried out before a job's offered. There's also a section about what to do before your PA starts, which looks at contracts of employment, arrangements for paying your PA, pensions, and also insurance. So the toolkit also includes information on what you need to do once your PA starts work, including arranging the training they may need, and also how to sort out problems that may potentially arise, including what to do in terms of arranging contingency measures should your PA be off sick. So the toolkit can be accessed via the Information Hub, or you can request an easy read hard copy by emailing our marketing team. So before I hand over to Pia, I just wanted to mention the funding we have available that individual employers can apply for training for both themselves and their PAs. So as well as covering the cost of training, and I'll talk more in a moment about what courses and qualifications can be funded, the money can also pay for any costs that individual employers or PAs may incur in travelling to and from training. It can also cover the cost of hiring a replacement PA while the usual PA is undertaking the training. So a new round of funding is going to open this month, and the application form and guidance will both be available to download from our website. Again, the link is on the slide. We look at all applications on a case-by-case basis, and if successful, the individual employer will be notified within 30 days, and the money will be paid directly into their bank accounts. To apply for funding, employers must live in England, they must be 18 or over, and employ their own PA or PAs using a personal budget from either social care or health, or by using their own money. And parents of under 18s who receive their personal health budget as a direct payment are also eligible to apply for the funding. Now, the individual employer should be the person who completes and submits the application, but if they're unable to, they are able to nominate someone else to do it on their behalf. And the money can be used for different types of training, and we put some examples on the slide here, but this list is by no means exhaustive though. There's many other examples of courses that we've funded, such as British Sign Language, Person-Centred Care Planning, Equality and Diversity. And as I've said, we look at all applications on a case-by-case basis, and if it's made clear how the training will benefit either the employer or the PA, there's a fairly good chance that the money will be awarded. And as well as courses, individual employers can also apply for funding for their PAs to complete accredited qualifications, such as diplomas in health and social care. And of course, they can apply for money for courses for themselves, such as being a good employer, for example. So if you sign up to our newsletter, and Pia will let you know how you can do that, you'll be notified when this next round of funding is open for applications. Okay, Pia.
Yes, so additionally to the individual employer funding that Laura was just talking about, we have over the last 18 months or since April 2020 had an offer of essential training. This is a training for new members of staff, part of their rapid induction program. Unlimited amount of staff can do this. It will cover the 8 topics that's kind of generally around when you are inducting new staff: medication, manual handling, safeguarding, all the main elements of knowledge needed for the care certificate. As well as that, you can access refresher training for your existing staff, again in the same 8 topics. The way you access this training is by clicking the link on the screen, the essential training. You select one of our endorsed learning providers. So these are training providers that we have selected to deliver this particular bit of training. There's a number of different ways that they may deliver that. They may do it in an online classroom. They may do it as e-learning. They may also look at competency. So we suggest that you talk to the different endorsed learning providers to find out a method of training that suits you. It's fully funded. No, you don't need to pay anything, and it's separate from the individual employer funding that Laura just spoke about. Additional to those two types of training, we also have a number of resources that's available for you. I've mentioned already about the endorsed learning providers. The endorsed learning providers database is a database of learning providers or training providers that we have gathered. These are training providers who have gone through checks to make sure that they are good training providers. They're going to provide a good level of quality of training. We also have this practical guide to learning and development for PAs. So this has particularly been written for PAs, so for your workforce, if you employ staff, to look at what are the things they need to think about when they're working with you to plan their training. The care certificate is a whole sector a standard of training for new members of staff. So you can download the workbook, and a new member of staff can go through the care certificate. They will be trained and kind of being able to show competency in 15 standards. Additional to that, we have a new resource for an e-learning module that anyone who is assessing the new members of staff's care certificate can access. It's free to access, and a great way to kind of make sure that when you are assessing somebody doing the care certificate, that you know what you're looking for. Over the COVID period, we recorded some webinars specifically for individual employers and PAs. Really great. They sort of up to about an hour's webinar, so you can see the titles on there. If any of these title kind of you think, oh, actually this is something that I would want to know a little bit more about, you can kind of click on that link and you will see those webinars. If, for instance, if you're looking at the funding that Laura was talking about earlier, about that when that funding becomes available and you need to complete the application form, the learning and development access and funding will have a really clear section about exactly how do you complete that application form. So really helpful, lots of information on there, lots of information and case studies about what other people have done, what other PAs and individual employers have done, and what's really worked for them. As Laura mentioned earlier, we on the individual employer hub on recruitment, there's so much information. There's a whole section around recruiting PAs. Within that, there's the top tip of recruitment process of what are the things that we have experience of that works really well. Lots of samples, job description, job adverts, letters, so you don't have to start from scratch. You can use those samples and change them to suit you. There's also guidance about running a sector-based work academy program and what that entails. This is a way of people kind of trying working in social care. As well as that, there's information about value-based recruitment workshop. The value-based recruitment workshops are workshops that we've created for the whole sector, so they're not individual employer specific, but really good way of thinking about what are your values and how do you make sure that when you are recruiting, that you are recruiting for somebody who has the same values as you. The Secret of Success report is also really an interesting thing to look at. This is a report that we produced looking at individual employers who had real great success in recruiting, and what were their secrets, what were the things that they did when they were recruiting PAs. As I said, loads of case studies as well, things that you can learn from others, and again some guidance for potential PAs, so perhaps using those kind of guidance when you are recruiting new PAs that haven't been PAs before. We also have this resource called the question of care. The way the question of care works is there's an online scenario-based quiz for people who are interested in working in social care. So again, there's a number of scenarios. Some of them are specifically for PAs. When you are recruiting someone, they perhaps you want to know if they really understand what the role is about. They will log on to the question of care. They will see some films of different scenarios, and after those films, there will be some questions saying, what would you do in this situation? At the end, you will then get their answers, and they will then get their answers too. And from that, you can see if those candidates, if those individuals have the right values and behaviours to work in social care and to work for you. Over the COVID period, we know it's been really tough working in social care, so we have developed this wellbeing resource finder. The resource finder is a really easy tool to help your workforce to find good resources to support their own and others' well-being. It's easy to find the things that suit you. So if you're looking for well-being resources for yourself, for your PA, or for anybody else, you can really kind of narrow that search down and make sure that the resources that you're searching for are exactly to meet your needs. And as Laura mentioned earlier, we do have this newsletter, and it's really a vital bit of newsletters to get because of the funding. Often the funding will come and there will be a certain amount of time to apply for that, so really good to get this newsletter. When you click on the link below there, it will ask you to add your details, and then you will automatically be signed up for the newsletter. And just finally, before we finish, just my contact details. As I said in my introduction, I'm the locality manager for Kent and Medway. So if you have any questions around the individual employer and PA support in your local area, and you're not sure where to get that from, do get in touch with me. I'm also the person that will have information about any local initiatives or any other local support that's available. Thank you very much for joining us today. This is the end of the recording. Afterwards, there will be an opportunity to ask Laura questions.
So the first question, Pia, I'll just unmute you. Oh,
Hiya.
You've already done it. Fantastic.
Yes. So I'm just
Okay.
to say it's me, not Laura. We had a little bit of a change of plan, so I'm here today rather than Laura.
That's right. Thank you, Pia. I receive a personal health budget. Can I still access the training funding?
Yes, you can. You can still access that funding. What you can't access with a personal health budget is that you can't access anything which are what we call delegated health tasks. So anything that's in your healthcare plan. So if, for instance, your PA is in a care plan needs to administer medication, you wouldn't be able to access training for medication because that should be part of that that contract you have with the health authority. But you could access safeguarding, first aid, that kind of other types of training which are not health related.
Brilliant, thank you. Gina asks, just to double check I heard correctly, the next tranche of funding is out this June. How long will it be open for?
So it's always a little bit tricky. So we optimistically said when we recorded this a couple of weeks ago, we said this month, as in June. Basically what happens is that the Department of Health and Social Care gives us that money to distribute. So we are commissioned to distribute. So we basically wait for that money to come from the department, and until we get that funding, we can't distribute it. It's usually around end of June, beginning of July. Obviously we are in slightly tricky times at the moment. But that's kind of my best guess, and it's then open to the end of February.
Great, thank you for your question, Gina. Can you recommend a training provider?
No, so I can't personally recommend a training provider, you know, kind of from my knowledge. However, what we do have, and we did mention in the film there, is we have these endorsed providers. So these are providers which are endorsed by Skills for Care because we have checked them out. We have a quality mark, so we've done some checks to make sure that they provide good quality training. When you go on that link, you can then filter down and you can then see things which are national, so national providers, but also you can kind of filter it down to the southeast area, so you'll be able to see any trainers which are based in your area. I know Gina from Social Care Enterprise, who have commented earlier, is one of the endorsed providers in Kent and provides training for individual employers.
Okay. Gina says, I'm from Social Enterprise Kent. We are endorsed providers, as you just said. If you would like to get in touch, please email or call me.
Yeah.
So, okay, she's left her details there. So if anybody does want to get in touch with Gina, that's there in the comments.
Yeah.
In the chat.
In Kent and Medway, there are 5 endorsed providers. They all offer slightly differently. The other things you can do on that database, on that website with endorsed providers, you can filter it down to the training course you're looking for. Obviously, it has kind of generalized subjects, but if you're, for instance, were looking for safeguarding training, you can filter it down to the area and the training you're looking for, and that makes it a little bit easier to find the right training providers, because obviously all training providers have different specialities.
That's right, yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you, Pia. And for everybody else, I directed you to the chat just above Gina's comment. I have shared that link again, so that link will allow you to download a resource sheet that Skills for Care put together for us, as well as a transcript of the presentation, which will be available to rewatch as well for 30 days after the event. So any other questions, don't forget to raise your hand if you want to, or pop it in the chat box. I sometimes struggle to do the HR part of employing my PAs. Can you provide HR advice?
So Skills for Care don't provide HR advice. That's not what we've been commissioned to do by the Department of Health and Social Care. However, we have a number of different resources which I will suggest. So in the presentation, we talked about the individual employer toolkit, which has loads of advice and information, lots of templates, lots of things to do, particularly around the recruitment part of the HR, as you call it. In terms of, and I suppose this is the question we often get, is about kind of dealing with some of the maybe more tricky situations, or your legal responsibilities as an employer. That is, again, in the film I talked about the webinars that we recorded end of last year. There's a really interesting one about your responsibility, your legal responsibilities as an employer. It goes into a lot of details about what your responsibilities are as an employer. It also has a number of suggestions about how to get additional support. There's 2 insurance companies who provide a lot of information about that as well. The other one I might draw your attention to is there's one called Difficult Conversations. So this is very much based on that or what we call the value-based recruitment and retention. So how do you have tricky conversations using the values that you may have? And it has an hour's a webinar from an expert in the field, Kerry Cleary, who really kind of goes into detail about how to have really good conversations. What are the things that you need to think about? So if you're having to have a difficult conversation, maybe somebody isn't performing the way you want them to, or some other way, it has a really good way of kind of starting those conversations, and also continue to have that throughout employment. Always good to kind of in terms of retention, making sure that you have a good working relationship with your PAs.
Absolutely, thank you. Have we got any more questions? While I'm letting people get in their last questions, so obviously you represent the Kent and Medway area. For anybody not in that area, can they visit the main Skills for Care website? And
yes, so there's one of me in every area in England, and as like I do, I cover 2 local authority area. But if you go on the website, that you can see that it says area contacts, and you can go and you can find one of me, and we really are there as the face of Skills for Care. So we are also you know, we can answer the questions. We'll be your like first point of contact in terms of skills for care. The other thing that happens is that because we are in the local area, we know lots of people, we know lots of organisation, we know of events that's happening, and therefore we're a good person to be in touch with, just to kind of say, you know, I exist, and keep in touch with me. And then if we're made aware of anything, particularly with Jobs in the Plus, if they're doing any special events for individual employees, which I know has happened in the past, or the local authority, we can then highlight that, or I can highlight that.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Pia. I think that's all of the questions. So for anybody watching this on playback, we did share Pia's email address and Laura's email address in the presentation, and we will make the files that we've shared in the chat available to everybody post-event as well, and you can visit their website to find out a little bit more. Kerry said thank you, that was really useful. Yeah, it was a brilliant presentation. Thanks ever so much, Pia, and Laura as well, who couldn't be with us today.
I'll pass that on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thanks
much,
for inviting
Pia.
me.
No problem at all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.